Hey everyone, this is Christian Fioravanti with Republicans for Independence, and I am here today with Tracy Mendonsa, who's running for Roseville City Council in 2012. So, Tracy, thank you so much for coming on. We're glad to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's just jump right into it. The first thing I want to ask you is just give us maybe 30 seconds or so and tell us some of your main reasons you're running for City Council, and then give us a quick synopsis of your background.
Well, one of the main reasons that I'm running for City Council is, especially in our area, which is Roseville, there are so many different projects going on right now. We have a new town square being built. We've got revitalization projects going on in downtown. And we have, a large demographic of median to high-end homes, all of which were affected by the current drop in home prices and assessed property value. So, in the long term, I'm looking to make sure that, Roseville continues to stay a city of distinction, to make sure that we keep our eye on the future. But in the short term, every small decision is going to have, future ramifications. So, I'm very concerned, not only as a resident, but as, a person who uses a lot of our services and whatnot, that every decision that we make over the next year, 2 years, up into the, 3-4 year period, they build towards something better and greater, which is what's going to, help rebuild Roseville, get us out of some of our issues with housing prices being lower than they should be, property values raising, getting jobs for our residents, putting our people back to work, and ultimately just creating a better, stronger community for Roseville.
Sure, definitely. So, Tracy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm married. I have twin daughters, twin 5-year-old daughters, resident here of Roseville. Been in the community a little over 10 years. Born and raised in Sacramento, moved up here after we got married, my wife and I. Currently, I work for a communications company that provides relay service to the deaf and hard of hearing. Really, really enjoy that job. It's a very rewarding job. I get to work with a lot of great people. But part of my job is also, working with government agencies, making sure that we're in compliance and making sure that, people who just can't, who don't have a voice for themselves, who don't always know a lot about navigating government waters, I help them with those kinds of things. Prior to that, I was a special agent, joined up to serve my country after 9/11, was going to go into the Air Force, and they cleared my background first, so I went over to the Fed as a special agent. Loved what I did. If I had to, I'd go up and do it again. I was called to do so. I believe that our country was stronger because of everybody who stepped up after that tragedy, and like I say, it's something that I felt an urge to do. I've always felt an urge to serve in some capacity, either on a local or a national level. So I got my national level out of the way, and now I'm refocusing on my local level. Prior to that, I was a trial paralegal for several years, and then in between those times, I had a few small businesses here and there, but mostly sole proprietorships, so they weren't anything that grew into like a Hewlett-Packard or anything. But nonetheless, they kept me busy and refocused me on what was important, which was staying busy, working, and contributing to our community.
Sure, that's great. No, you've got a very diversified background, so I think that's awesome. You bring a lot of experience to the table in different areas.
Oh, I forgot to mention when you said experience. I'm a former college chair, and I currently also teach 3 nights a week at Heald College, classes in government, criminal justice, and civics and those kinds of areas. So I do so much I forgot what I'm doing these days.
Sure, that's awesome. That's great. Now, Tracy, why do you think you're the best choice or one of the better choices than your opponents for this position?
Well, a lot of people ask me that, and I always tend to give the same answer, and people are probably tired of hearing it. But you don't have to remember anything if you're honest and sincere. But the reason I think I'm the best candidate for this position is I'm someone that's, not too young, not too old. I have twin daughters. I have a wife. My family, lives in Roseville, and the rest of them live in Placer County. We're all using the same resources, the same city services, the same parks, the same roads, the same access to different city and county run items that everybody else is using. So I feel like I'm really in touch, because we have, starter families. We have blended families in Roseville. We have people who are, who have teenagers or who have newborns. So I'm able to, relate to the people who are concerned about our parks, who are concerned about our play structures being out of date, not being kept up. I can also relate to the individuals who have teenagers who are worried there's nothing for us to do. There's no teenage outlets here in Roseville to, keep our kids occupied, keep them safe. I have 5-year-olds, but, it wasn't that long ago when I was a teenager, and now that I'm teaching college 3 nights a week, I'm dealing with the 20-somethings, the people who've only been out of the teenage years 2-3 years sometimes. So, I feel I'm able to relate to a lot of different demographics, and because of that, I'm able to really see the needs and see how Roseville is going to change. I also believe that with my criminal justice background, and as well as my teaching and my regulatory compliance background, that I'm able to navigate a lot of the red tape that we see day in and day out. It doesn't matter if it's on the city council, the county board of supervisors, at the assembly level, or even higher. There's always a level of government difficulty to get things done. And then you add the echelon of, people who aren't agreeing, people who have their own agendas, this, that, and the other thing. It becomes very difficult, to make sound decisions, responsible decisions, when you have to get through so much minutia just to advance, something that's a really good idea that's beneficial to a lot of people. So I think that working in government and now with government, definitely a positive, because I can see where the breakdowns and the bottlenecks are, navigate us through that, and hopefully, speed things along, for the things that need to get done. I'm very driven to, do my research, and once everything is researched and looked at, I want to move on it, I want to act on it and start on the next project. I don't like to leave things lingering. I'm not one of these wait and see people. I'm very proactive. I believe it's a better model for city leadership than the reactive, because a lot of times reactive means that we spend 2, 3, 4 times the amount of work and labor to get ourselves out of a bad situation, when if we had been proactive, we could have seen the pitfalls potentially, avoided some of them, and made a better, more sound decision in the short term and then also in the long term. I believe in our city, and the motto that I have, or the campaign slogan, and I've run with since November when I started this campaign, was "Our City, Your Voice." And I didn't just arbitrarily pick that out, out of a fortune cookie or something. I thought long and hard, and I thought, why am I running this race? Why am I getting involved, at this particular time? And I kept telling myself, well, I live here. This is my city. I have a vested interest in what happens here. So obviously that's the our city part. And at the end of the day, people come to the city council because they don't know where to go. They don't know where to take this issue. They don't know, where to go with a particular problem. They're looking for those 5 people in those seats sitting up there looking at them as they're addressing them at the podium. I need someone to be my voice. I need someone to help me with this. I don't know what to do, or I have a problem, or I have a positive solution I'd like you to listen to. Those are the kinds of things that as a city leader I'm interested in. So I kind of blended the two together, and I said, I could be the best of both worlds here. I could not only represent the city, but I could also represent the people, blend those together, and hopefully afford some very positive, some unique change within the city of Roseville, that's going to move forward a fresh perspective on a lot of different items.
Sure, which is unusual for elected officials to actually be the voice of the people, so that's good you're stepping up to the plate. So, Tracy, on your website, MendonsaForCityCouncil.com, you say, and I quote, "Roseville will need to have strong leadership to prepare for stiff challenges in the future." What type of challenges do you think Roseville will incur in the future?
The top 3 that always come to mind is, we have to continue to create jobs. We have to continue to bring businesses to our city so that, businesses can bring those jobs and our people can get employed. And lastly, we really have to focus on our city services and our open areas. If we focus, everything we have on commerce, or everything that we have on jobs and job growth and whatnot, or we focus everything on revitalizing, downtown or historic Roseville, we have to strike a balance, because we can't forget the parks, we can't forget the open areas, we can't forget, that we do have very, very, highly, not highly valued, I want to say highly desirable open areas, and we have lots of land that could potentially be overdeveloped if we're not careful. So while we're over here focusing on a downtown revitalization, which I think is important, because a thriving downtown is a good representation of a very strong economy, we can't ignore that there are other areas. So I kind of look at it this way: I want to adopt a kind of an onion approach to the city. Every part of the city has a layer, and that layer deserves equal amount of attention. Now, some are going to require a little more on any given day, but at the end of the day, if we can try to pay as much attention to everything as we can, that's the better thing. And the challenges are going to be that the economy might not come back the same way. A lot of the forecasts are saying that the new economy is going to be made up predominantly of more smaller businesses and less large business. And if that truly is the case, we as a community, we have to adapt to that. We have to be more business friendly. We have to incentivize to get businesses here, small business, medium business, or larger corporations. But if the new model is going to be focused more on a smaller business model, we have to look at our infrastructure, to look at our downtown, our office spaces that are available, our storefronts. Can we accommodate this? And if we can't, can we adjust, to meet this changing face of the economy? On the flip side, we have, 3-4 private colleges here in Roseville. We butt up against Rockland, who has a Sierra College, which is a junior college, and then we have William Jessup in Rockland as well, another private college. We have the potential to have a very, very highly educated, very diverse type of workforce and population. And that type of diversity and educated, experienced workforce is desirable. And if we don't utilize them and bring the businesses here to use them, they will get picked up and go somewhere else. And if they end up moving because a great job opens up, it would be a loss of obviously sales tax and property tax revenue, and loss to the community and census. It's just a loss all the way around. So one of the challenges is going to be we need to keep our population here. We need to keep them working, and we need to keep them happy. Even if we find them jobs here, if they can't afford to live here, it's really not fair. We're doing to another city what we don't want another city to do to us, which is take our people away and put them to work elsewhere. So we need to watch the price of home values. We need to make our neighborhood safer. We need to ensure that things are operating properly within these neighborhood associations, and there's checks and balances in place. But at the same time, we have to incentivize these businesses to come here. So if we have the people, that's great. But if we have no jobs, then it's not really a fit. And on the flip side, if we've got all these employers and not enough people to fill them because they're leaving to go somewhere else, then we have businesses that are closing, and we don't want to see that either. So I think the biggest challenge is going to be we have to look at how this economy is going to rebound, and we have to gauge what we can offer and how we can embrace those changes to make it successful for us as a city.
Tracy, we spoke yesterday about the Roseville Community Redevelopment Corporation and how they need to be more transparent about their actions to the people and to the city council. And so I'd like you to kind of tell everyone a little bit about your views on this non-governmental organization.
Well, we talked a little bit about it yesterday, and I really believe that in the long run, it's not sound decision making. It's not good to make decisions that can impact the city, without including the city in those. And that was something that we talked about yesterday. I don't necessarily have issue with organizations like this getting together, because I obviously believe that when it comes to overbuilding and over planning and not utilizing and preserving our open areas, we need all the help that we can get sometimes, because developers do tend to they have a powerful voice. But we need to be kept in the loop as a city. We need to have check-ins. Once a month, maybe once a quarter. Whatever is reasonable, depending on the scope of the project. But we can't just have things going on and have the city find out when it ends up in the newspaper or we get a memo on it. That's not a good partnership. And I think at the end of the day, what we really need to do is not look at this as a group versus the city or the city versus the group. We need to look at this as we need to make it a partnership. We need to work together, because if we're not kept in the loop, then a bad decision can be made. And if that bad decision is made and we find out too late, like I mentioned earlier, that's something that we might not be able to fix. But I believe that us staying in the loop for the entire process can actually help as well, because we're going to be privy to things as a council and other committees like our planning commission and our utilities commission, and things that could impact the decisions that this group makes. We could offer some insight which may help them to make a better informed decision. But I'm not for, organizations like that one, going about making rogue types of decisions, without obviously consulting or at the very least including the county, the city, in some form of a memo or an update or some sort of response, so that we can track accordingly, and if we see problems, catch them in time.
Right, exactly. What do you think about the roundabout they want to put in at Oak Street and Washington Boulevard in downtown Roseville?
The roundabout's a really cool idea. And I say cool idea because Sacramento toyed with this model, and they actually implemented a few roundabouts in their downtown area, and they were dealing with issues of speed, which is similar to the issue that we're seeing right now in downtown Roseville. That particular area where the roundabout is proposed has become kind of a thoroughfare for people, and they get up a pretty good clip of speed. And on any given weekend, when City Hall is closed and some of the other local businesses are closed, there's not a lot of cars on the street. People can get a pretty good clip of speed going up there. And so I obviously am a proponent of slowing that down. We do have a midlife aged community who still live in some of those older homes, and they do still frequent that downtown area, and they've been there for several generations, and it would really sadden me if it was no longer safe for those residents to go out, or for bicyclists or for people walking around, because we have speeders. The problem I have with the roundabout is that although it is aesthetically beautiful, and I think that it has a place in Roseville, and I believe that anytime that you can put something really pretty with flowers and that creates a very, very aesthetic look for Roseville, I'm all for that, for appearance wise. But unless we widen that street, which would be highly improbable because of the way the sidewalk and the curb structure is, that roundabout is just going to surprise people, and the people it doesn't surprise will try to avoid it, or they won't see it in time. And if they crash into it, that's okay. It served its purpose. It prevented that car from hitting somebody else. But what concerns me is if they swerve to miss that roundabout and they end up going onto a sidewalk, or they swerve and they hit another car, coming around the other side of it, or both. I don't want to create a greater danger by putting an obstacle in the way of a traffic pattern. So I would like to see, if we're going to be tearing that street up down the road for, gas line maintenance, water maintenance, repaving, things that are common along that stretch of street there. Let's think about maybe, putting a slight curve or a slight bend in that. And that's something that we can do without really altering the sidewalks and the gutters and whatnot. It might shorten some of the parking spaces, but, we have to give a little to gain, a little safer. I think that most residents would vote losing a couple parking spaces to gain some traffic safety would probably be a good trade-off. So I would want to work with our different street divisions and with our planning department, and see if there was a way where if we extended out one of the corner planter boxes, or we extended out one of the sidewalks, or made it more of a triangular step off versus more of a squared, so that would create that curve shape, so it would cause people who are coming into that at a high rate of speed to have to slow down to hit that curve. And I'm not talking about a 90-degree bend or anything, just enough to slow it down. And that's what the roundabout was really trying to do, was to slow the traffic, or to create traffic to go onto other side streets so it wouldn't be so congested. The curve that I would like to see us look at would achieve both of those. And if someone overcorrected on that curve, it wouldn't be such an overcorrection to avoid a large obstacle as a roundabout. It would just be a little overcorrection, but it wouldn't really probably place them onto a sidewalk or into another vehicle, because I'm talking a low gradient type curve. So I like the idea of the roundabout. I would like to see us put those somewhere throughout the community. I think they're nice and aesthetically pleasing, but it's something that would be more appropriate for a wider stretch of road, where we would have enough to kind of still expand out the lanes to make it safe, and obviously too, by doing that, we force people into a bike lane if we were to stripe that downtown. So it creates a narrower and narrower lane for traffic, and at some point even our larger vehicles with just the slightest overcorrection, they're going to end up in a bike lane or on a curb to go around these roundabouts, and I just can't. I would feel bad if a decision like that ended up costing somebody, a cyclist or a pedestrian their lives because, it wasn't looked at from both sides as far as a safety aspect and as well as a reduction of speed aspect.
Right, I agree. In fact, we actually attended the meeting, one of the city council meetings, where they were discussing all of this, and they had a lot of members from the community voicing their opposition to it, as well as mostly city employees who are the ones who are actually for it, who were there speaking for it. But one of the ladies who actually got up was a bus driver, and she said, hey, it's almost impossible for me to even get my school bus around these things, and with where we're putting it in on Oak Street in Washington and how it's going to be all set up, it's going to be very hard to do that. And speaking of, a large vehicle going over in the bus lane, that'd be kind of a mess. So it's definitely a lot of issues there with safety, with pedestrians trying to walk across the street and cars getting around and not being used to these things and stuff. So, I very definitely agree with that. So, Tracy, what are your thoughts on sustainable living or smart growth?
Well, one kind of, bleeds into the other. I believe that smart growth is something that Roseville needs to look at, and it's not just something that we need to just throw out there because it sounds good, and people by mentioning it makes them feel good that they're thinking about it. We need to look at the open areas that we still have, and we have plenty of land in Roseville to expand, and it doesn't mean that we have to do it right away. I mean, we can do this over the next 20, 30, 40 years and still not really impact our resources. But I want to make sure that certain open areas remain open and that certain planned communities that may go in have the opportunity to have the necessary parks and necessary resources. So I think it's smart growth that, encompasses everything from is this community going to have a park? And if it is, it needs to be a park that's big enough and large enough for this community. We need to also plan fire stations. We need to plan, is this particular area that's being built, is it going to impact response rates for the fire department? What is the road built? Is there a way for people to get back and forth, who are working? How close is it to services and whatnot? That's the smart part of smart growth. It's not just a matter of, building, a less amount of houses or different types of houses. And that is a part of it, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I think one element of the smart growth is you have to be smart in how you're growing. You can't just plop, a bunch of tract homes onto an open piece of land, and sell them, and then expect people, they'll just go out and they'll find the resources they need. They'll drive until they find, a superstore. They'll drive until they find, a retail outlet. They'll drive until they find a restaurant. Well, that's true. They might. People always will drive to find their favorite restaurant if they find one. I mean, I drive 15 minutes out of my way to go to my favorite Roseville restaurant out of my particular community just because it's my favorite restaurant. But that's by choice. We shouldn't force people who move into our communities, to just go out there and constantly have to hunt and peck. The other element of the smart growth is, we need to be smart about how we're building. We need to be looking at some of the newer homes out in West Roseville and near Fittymont and in those areas. They're already building them with devices that will, heat the water up before the water comes out of the spigot. There's a little button you push. Now they have, very, very high energy efficient types of water heaters. They've got, electricity savings built into them. They've got different filters. They have low maintenance, drought resistant type irrigation plants in the back, which require less water. There's a lot of thought and planning that went into a lot of these other divisions that are popping up. And that too is a part of smart growth. We need to be smart about our resources. We can't ignore the fact that, as we grow, we're going to impact our water. And, we work with Placer County Water to get our water, and we have plenty of water underground, right now, and that's great. We have an awesome amount of reserve, but we need to keep that reserve. We can't just, it's there, let's use it. We need to continue to preserve that. On the other side, Roseville's got its own electric company, and we need to fund that. We don't get a lot of the help that other electric companies get because it's ours. The city owns it. So we need to be smart about our electricity choices. So the homes and different living areas that come into our area, they need to be built, with an eye to the future of being smart and conserving resources. It's possible to do, and because our existing homes don't have that. And I think that we've come a long way with incentivizing, different utility companies and different types of other organizations to offer incentives to replace out-of-date appliances, weather stripping, insulation, different composite roofing materials, to kind of bring them up to speed to what the new houses are already putting in when you buy them. Every little bit's going to help, but that's all part of smart growth. As we grow, we have to be smart about keeping our resources, abundant, and that's not going to happen if we don't look at what's available. I was speaking at just kind of a side note at one of the forums at Sun City about 2 weeks ago, and they were talking about the streets, how much they constantly crack, and it just seems like the city comes out there and they patch it up, and then 18 months later or so it's cracking again, and they were visibly upset that how come these streets keep cracking? What's going on with this? So I had looked into it and did some research, and it's not the city's fault. I mean, they're out there doing what they're doing. They're using the supplies that they have, but like anything else, something new comes on the market every day. And some of the other states that I looked up are using this new product. It's almost like a Thompson's water seal, but it's made for asphalt, and you mix it in, as you're laying down the new asphalt on the existing streets, or when you're laying a brand new street. And what it does is it prevents the water from seeping in, and it's the water that seeps in the cracks that causes the cracks to get bigger and create these large, valleys that we see, and we have to have them come out there and fill. So I had proposed that. I said, I'm not even on council yet, and I've found, a potential solution. Obviously, we have to, propose this and look if it's feasible and how much it's going to cost per square foot and whatnot. But, it's an alternative to what we already have. And I think that's what we need to be looking at, smart growth as far as homes, how we build them, our space, how we use it. But smart growth also involves everything right down to our sidewalks and our streets. If we can get 5 or 6 or 7 years out of something right now we're only getting 2 or 3 years out of, that's smart growth, because that money that we're saving, we can either put back into something else, contribute to our general fund, or put that into fixing something else within our city that requires our attention that might not have the budget right away to do it. So by allocating better resources for existing projects, being smart about that growth, the money that we save and the resources that we save is also being smart on the city level, because we're able to then maximize income generated, resources that we're utilizing, plus the dollars that we're saving. The city comes out a winner all 3 ways. And plus all those new homes that were just built, using the smart growth dynamic, we're getting the property taxes from those. We're getting homeowners that are more conservative as far as their resources, not because they're changing their lifestyles. It's just because the homes are built better. The land is being utilized better. And so we're not asking people to change their lifestyle. They're just able to live the same lives that they always have. It's just technology and the homes and everybody else that put the thought into those areas. They're allowing them to not change day-to-day habits, but yet we are being smarter about a growth, and we're being smarter about our utilization of resources.
Sure, absolutely. No, and that's what we actually really like about you once we found you. It's weird because, we were looking at all the candidates. We really had a lot of time to speak with almost every single one of them, definitely the main ones. And, we're big fans of Pauline Riccucci, mayor. We really think that she does a great job as well. But we really were intrigued when we finally got a chance to talk to you and really see where you stood on things, because we were so surprised that you are an actual researcher. You are a real thinker. You have you're very substantial in your the way you view things, and you really know what the issues are, and you really know where you stand on them. And if you don't, like I said, you're a researcher, you're going to go and you're going to find it out. And that's what we really care about, and we don't really find in a lot of our local leaders. And so that's definitely a great quality, and one of the reasons why I really wanted to promote you and support you. And you're right up there with some of the best from what I can see, at least here in Roseville, and so that's one of the reasons why I really want to get you elected. But so the next thing I wanted to ask you, Tracy, and this is more of a serious question. This isn't a question that we usually would ask to anybody, but this is something that I have a question about personally, and that is, do you believe that we're heading into a deeper depression over the next 4 years? And if so, how will you help to keep Roseville stable in the midst of economic calamity?
I think that answer, that question is a great question. And right now, on this date, at this time, during this phone call, I believe that we as a nation are coming out. of a very, very, very dark period as far as our economy. And like everything else, a lot of these cycles are cyclical, and they're heavily dependent upon the presidential elections. We see this in times of war, in times of national disasters like we saw at 9/11, things like that. But I believe that I don't think we're going the opposite direction. I think that as a nation, it's slow, but just from what I'm seeing and what I've researched, it looks like we're starting to come out of it. Now, are we going to be where we were 5, 6, 10 years ago? No. It's going to take a long time, to heal these types of wounds that we have suffered. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, just an economic downturn is one thing, and then you pair that with a housing downturn, unemployment rates rising, and then you pair that again with individuals who are no longer getting pensions. We're not funding pensions. Retirements are being cut. It's not just one. In the past we've had one, maybe two, items that have caused a decline or a downturn in one area or the other. We're looking at 6, 7 different items. It was almost like the perfect storm. Everything that could have gone wrong did. So where do you start? I mean, how many holes in the dam can you plug before another one pops open? So I think we're doing what we can as far as a nation. As far as Roseville, I believe that right now we don't have a deficit, and I have said from day one when I began my campaign that one of my goals, if elected, was to continue to make Roseville a city of distinction and not a city with a deficit. We don't want to go the way of Bell. We don't want to go the way of other cities that are around us. Not that they could have seen what happened, but this goes back to that smart growth question. A lot of these cities around us, they grew because the opportunity was there. It was like homeowners who overnight saw they had $200,000 in equity, in a house that didn't have that a week ago, and they decided to cash it all out and go do great, go on vacation, do what they want to do, and that's great. I mean, people will reward themselves how they will. As a city, you need to be a little more responsible, with money and with growth. And some cities weren't, and some were. We were. Pauline Rakucci, the current mayor, has done a good job at balancing our needs as far as making sure the electric company, is sustained, making sure our general fund has money in it. We're not flowing red. We still have money. Our services are still, handling what they need to. Our community isn't seeing a decline in services. We did have to cut, a couple bus routes, and I know that we've had to amend a couple hours for some of the city buildings, and our libraries are a concern of mine right now. That's something I'm focusing on. I want to make sure those don't get cut. And some of the other services for the elderly are a definite priority for me. But long and short, we're not cutting nearly as much as other cities are, who have been in a deficit for 2, 3 years now. We're doing fine. We could be doing better, and we could always be doing better. Our general fund could have more money in it, but you have to look at too. The general fund is comprised of sales tax. People who go out there and buy things and shop, that money, helps fund that general fund. In 2010, we had the Galleria fire. That was right before the holiday season. We lost some money on sales tax revenue. I mean, we just did. That's the bottom line. People still came out and they supported the Galleria, and they walked a little farther, and they braved the construction and the weather to support it, and that's great. It's a testament to the city. But at the end of the day, we were down, with some of those numbers. The auto mall is another huge, tax generator for us as a city. In 2010, 2009, we were in the midst of that economic downturn. People were keeping their cars longer, instead of buying new. And even though the auto mall sells new and used cars, we make a lot more money on new than we do on used cars as far as sales tax. So, our two biggest tax generators, both were hit by economic downturns that were unpredictable. So we're coming out of that. The auto mall, was citing a couple of months ago that they're selling cars at a record rate now, and all of the dealerships are all getting facelifts. That's from the corporate office from those dealerships. They do it every 5 or 6 years. If the auto mall wasn't doing well and those dealerships headquarters didn't see the potential, they wouldn't have done the facelift. They would have just relocated them somewhere else. So that's encouraging to see. Same thing with the Galleria. The opportunity presented itself that we could do a little better than we did when it was first built after the fire. So they rebuilt it in a different way. Relocated some of the escalators. Different storefronts, different design. We were able to accommodate more stores. Utilizing the same square footage, more stores, more sales tax revenue, more money in the general fund, more jobs. So we're doing better on a city level than probably the nation is on a national level, just because we're smaller. But on a national level, there's a lot more that goes into it. But we're finding jobs. We're bringing jobs to the community. We're bringing businesses here. We're looking at the big picture to make sure that our economy stays strong, because we know what it's going to take. It's going to take people who shop, people who eat here, and people who live here. And if we don't keep people happy, they'll move. And if they move, we don't get that property tax, or they don't shop here, we don't get the sales tax. We want people to come here. We want them to bring their family and friends here. So, looking at it that way, we know what it's going to take to keep our community going. I want to continue that model. It's only going to get better if we bring a college here. If we bring a four-year university here, that's going to bring people who will live here, people who will shop here, eat here, etc. We bring more business here. They're going to live here. They're going to work here. They're going to play here. It's a domino effect. If we focus on the broad strokes of just getting commerce going again, get our employment numbers up, and we become business friendly, a lot of this stuff will take care of itself. So I think that we don't have the issue of falling into some of the recessions and the economic pitfalls that other cities have. I think that we're, if things hadn't happened like they did nationally, we would be doing much better, because a lot of our homes are undervalued. A lot of people are still upside down in their homes. Our property tax rolls are less. Assessed values have gone down, so that means we're getting less. But at the end of the day, it's better to get less property values or property tax dollars than to have a influx of abandoned, vacant, foreclosed homes with no revenue coming in at all. I would rather see us bring in 10% less of property tax values across the board than to see a decrease of 50% income property tax levels and people just moving out of here in groves because they can't afford to live here or they're abandoning the community. I'm happy that people are staying. I'm not happy that property values haven't gone up a little bit, but we can work on that. As a city, we can work with ways to fix that problem, and that's going to raise our economy. As a city, we can work on getting business here. That's going to raise our economy. We can work with businesses to expand. That's going to help our economy. So I'm looking at this as an eye of the future. If I get elected and I get a 4-year term, this problem probably won't be fixed within the first term that I'm in office. I mean, it's 4 years. That's, like I said earlier, that's not even a car loan cycle. It's going to take more than 4 years to fix this. But if the wrong people get elected in November, we have the potential of going backwards. So what may have taken 6 years, so a term and a half to get this done, could end up taking 8 years now, or 10 years or longer. If we don't look at this, how are we going to bring the economy forward? Not fix it, bring the economy forward so that it continues at each step to stabilize. You don't want to bring it from beginning to end immediately and not build that infrastructure in the middle, because it's like building a bridge with rope with no planks in the middle. Yeah, you've got the rope there to hold the planks. How are you going to get across? There's no boards. You have to make sure that each step you take is a strong step, so that when you take the next one, it goes in succession, and each step is solidified, and it's a good decision. It's going to work for the community. We don't want to take a bunch of bad steps and only to be delayed in our growth, because if the rest of the nation doesn't come out of this as quickly, it could affect us. We could then begin to start seeing levels where we might not have the money we have. I don't want to see us with a deficit. I don't even want to see us close to being in the red. We're okay now, and I want to get better. I don't want to continue to be okay. I don't want to be that city that's one check away from bankruptcy. I want us to continue to move forward. So that's my answer to that. I think that as a nation, we still got some ways to go. But as a city, we're a little farther along. Of course, we're a smaller economy than a national economy, but we've got we're a little farther along.
Right. No, I agree. I think that Roseville has a lot of potential, and it can even do better than it's doing right now over time. I think if we have the right people in office, we can absolutely accomplish that. And I'll tell you what, I'd love to see you and Pauline working together, the mayor, Pauline Rakucci, because I think you guys could do a fantastic job and really take this economy even further. And I'm also a strong believer in microeconomics, and if you do things right at the local level, you don't have to end up being like the national level if they're doing bad, or even the state level. You can really have success and prosperity in your own city or county or wherever it be if you have the right people in there running things and really doing what's necessary to keep afloat and even thrive. So definitely. One of my last questions for you, Tracy, is this is an issue that I think a lot of informed citizens of Roseville really do care about, and that is fluoride in the water. And we were talking a little bit about this yesterday, but I want to have you kind of voice your opinion out here for everyone today. And that is, if you were on the council today, how would you vote in regards to adding more fluoride to our city's drinking water?
Well, I don't think we need to add more fluoride, and like I pressed on this yesterday. We get our water from Placer County Water, and we get it from the higher up sources near Tahoe, American River, and it flows down. Because of how we get our water, it would cost us money to alter the water that we get. So if we wanted to add more, that would take extra couple steps. We would then have to basically break out our water, because ours would be exclusive because we're adding more things to it, like fluoride. Just that example right there, because that would be the bare minimum that would have to take place. We would have to kind of segment our water, because unless everybody else getting that same water was also okay with getting more fluoride, it would just be us. So we would have to then rationalize how much water we're using, block out exactly that much water, refluoride it or add fluoride, and then if we over anticipated, great. If we under anticipated, then we have to block out more water. It creates an obstacle. It creates a different level of government and process that is going to be costly. I mean, somebody's got to do that. That's going to be some city employee, or it's going to be a private company, or a combination of both. Either way, somebody's got to get paid. It's going to be a process flow that has to be created. And if that process includes, infusing the water with more fluoride, again, that's cost. I am not a proponent of creating more cost for government. Not that, government doesn't have the money. I mean, like I said before, we're not in a deficit, but the government also realizes that we like to pass the savings on to you, excuse the pun. So if we're doing that, we can expect an increase in our water rates, and I don't think a lot of the residents are going to be real happy about increasing water rates, and getting an increase in fluoride. So I have a problem, if we're going to do that and then passing that that cost on to the consumer. I'm not big on taxing or creating new fees. The other thing that bothers me is, I would have to see some serious documentation, data, research. I mean, if someone came to me and said, Tracy, we've got this 4-year-long, study that we've done, and we've got 60 doctors and researchers who have published this report in a medical journal that says that, increasing fluoride on an annual basis is creating, societies that live 10, 20, 30 years longer, and
Sure.
I'd be like, hey, in that case, I would, let's look at it, let's listen. If you're bringing to me, facts and things like that, where, it's obviously a benefit to our society, you're living longer and living healthier or whatever, hey, that's different. But if we're just doing it, just to be doing it, I have a problem with that. I just don't think that's, I don't think it was something that we need to do. I don't think that. I think what we have is fine. To add more, I would have to, see something as to why would we need to add more, and if we're going to take away, again, that would create something that we have to alter the water to take less out of or create more of. Either way, you're creating a process that's not currently there, which is going to cost somebody either time, money, resources, or both, or all three. I don't want to do that, because someone's got to pay for that along the way, and I don't want it to be the residents. I don't want it to be the city. If it's working now, and doesn't seem to be an issue. I mean, I'm sure that there are, a few instances out there where this might be an issue for somebody reactive to a medicine or a certain condition, because everybody's body is different. But for the long term, I don't think we need to add any more to it, because I just think it creates additional issues that the city doesn't need to be dealing with, and we have other issues to deal with. And unless somebody was to really show some evidence to say one way or the other we need to change it, I'm just not for creating more government.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, I totally agree. If it increases our lifespan by 50 years, let's do it.
Yeah,
no, definitely. All right.
50 years.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said, who wouldn't want to live 50 more years, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, hey, Tracy, I want to go ahead and give you an opportunity. If you have any closing statements you want to make, then go ahead and do that now.
The only closing statement I really want to make is, I really enjoy living in Roseville, and ever since November, I'm a very outgoing person, and when I was a special agent, it was different, because anybody's door you ever knocked on, you weren't exactly the first person they wanted to see. You weren't always welcomed with enthusiasm, like, oh great, look, it's the special agent here to see me. It wasn't a very happy greeting. Since I've been out there campaigning and canvassing neighborhoods and doing all of that and talking to people, what's really motivated me to really push and get this seat. I mean, I wanted it bad to begin with. That's why I ran. But now I really believe that I can be, a good positive change for Roseville, because I met so many people in Roseville that were just totally disenchanted with government. They were so just fed up, and I asked them, I said, well, what's got you so fed up about government? And they just over and over again, I would hear the same thing. Nobody listens to me. Nobody's hearing what I have to say. And I said, are you talking about local government? Are you talking about state government and federal government? And they said, it doesn't matter. They said just government in general doesn't hear the working people. They don't hear the elderly people. They don't hear the people with disabilities. And I kept hearing over and over again. I thought, once or twice is okay, but, over 6-8 months, when that becomes a resounding theme, that's a problem. I mean, even if your city's listening to you, if your state and your federal leaders aren't listening to you, that's a problem. So the least we could do is if we can at least listen to you as a city, and we can fix your problems in the city, your streets, your lights, your traffic problems, get you employed, get you trained, help you out as far as quality of life. That's one less thing you have to worry about. I mean, we can't fix the problems of the federal government or the state government. We can try, but that's not really our purview. So my thing at the end of the day is, I want to be focused on the issues that are impacting our lives in our city. And, I really want to be that voice for the residents, because they don't believe that anybody's listening to them. And these are people that are dual income families. These are people that have kids. They work all day, and they come home and take their kids to soccer or baseball, or whatever sport they're playing in, or maybe they're in the Scouts, or they're in another fraternal or civic organization or nonprofit organization. They don't have time to come to a city council meeting in the evening time. They're out there using the city services that we as a council are trying to help make better. They're out there, they're getting home just in time to put food on the table. They're spending time with their families at the parks or at different events that are sponsored by the city or the county or both. We want them doing that. We want them to enjoy that and have their quality of life enhanced by those city services. I don't expect the community to come to the council meetings. I don't even expect them to pull down the agenda that's available every week on the internet after the meetings are over. That's my job if I get elected. That's our job as city councilmen or women or members if we're all elected. Our job is, you can't get there, you call us up. You send us an email, send me a letter. However, if you call me up when I'm elected, you can't make it, I will put that before the council myself. I will look it up myself. I will take that initiative to find out. Maybe it's something that we can even deal with. A lot of times it's a county issue or a state issue or something like that. If it's not, I'll refer it to the right person. I'll let you know. Here's who I handed it off to, and I'll follow up with them in a couple days or a week or whatever is appropriate. If it's a city issue, I will make sure that you're in the loop. I'll CC you on an email. I'll leave you a voicemail. I'll invite you down for the meeting, whatever it takes. At the end of the day, I'm not asking you to take time out of your day to come to a meeting. Yes, I'd love it if you were informed. I'd love it to be every resident in Roseville to be completely that involved in their city. But in reality, I would rather you be out there enjoying your family. I'd rather you be out there at the park. I'd rather you be out there at our softball diamonds, at our libraries. I want you using those services. I want to work hard to keep them open. And if I'm going to keep them open, I want you to use them because they're there for you. It's your money. It's your tax dollars. And I'm not going to forget who I answer to and whose money I'm spending. At the end of the day, I work for you, the residents, and I'm spending your money to give these services open for you. And so I don't want you wasting your time sitting in a meeting, feeling frustrated. That's my job. Tell me what you need, what you want, your concerns, your complaints, your compliments, whatever it is, and go out there and enjoy your life. I'll take care of it. I'll get back to you, and we'll work it out that way. I just believe that, our quality of life is so important. We're all so busy right now, and we have this great community feel in Roseville. And I've told people that over and over again, and it always shocks them. They look at me, they don't know how to respond to that, because I always end my neighborhood canvassing the same way. I asked them, I said, well, is there any other questions that you have for me? And I've got my notepad there, and I've been taking copious notes, and sometimes they have one, sometimes they don't. And I say, okay, well, I hope that I was able to earn your vote today, and I hope that you will come out on the 6th and cast your vote in this election. And they always look at me puzzled, like, earn your vote. What does that mean? And I said, because you're trusting me with your vote right now. You're going to go to the polls, or you're going to fill out your absentee ballot, and you're going to check 3 boxes for city council. Hopefully I'm one of those 3 boxes. I haven't done anything for you yet. I've told you what I want to do. I have given you my experience. I've told you, the plans I have and how I intend to do it. And I believe that I can do everything that I've told you I said I was going to do. But you're trusting that I'm going to follow through on that. So you're placing a great amount of trust. Abe Lincoln said that the ballot is more powerful than the bullet. And that's true. You're placing trust in me for the next 4 years. I didn't just sell you a bum steer. And that means a lot to me. I mean, that someone's entrusting that big of a decision, something so great as a vote, in an election to me. And, that's something that I take very seriously. And I would never not fulfill anything that I have told somebody I was going to do, because, that's a huge trust factor. Someone is trusting their vote. So, of course, I'm going to take the next 4 years. They're trusting me with their vote in November. But 4 years from now, I'm going to come back, hopefully, and say I earned your vote. And if you want to learn more about me, I'd encourage you to go to my website. You can also find me on Facebook. And the Republicans for Independence. They have links to my information as well. And I encourage you to come talk to me. I'm not a scary person. There's nothing you can tell me or ask me that if I don't know the answer, I'll find it. But at the end of the day, I really want you to know that I'm someone you can come to if you have an issue. And I want there to be that openness and that transparency. And I know that some members on our council right now have that, and some of our council members don't. And some of the people who are running, believe that, and some don't. And, I believe it. And I think the best way to show somebody that you're honest and that you believe in what you do is to show by example. So, get me on that council, and I will lead by example. I will show you, that I do intend to take your concerns and be your voice and look out for you as well as the city.
Fantastic. Well, Tracy, I want to thank you for coming on, and it's definitely a pleasure having you with us. And I hope that we can really help you get in there. We're going to be watching your campaign much more closely over the next couple of weeks up to Election Day.
Yep, it's going to be an exciting 7 weeks.
All right, sounds good, Tracy. Have a good one.
Thank you, sir.